So good morning again, everyone. Welcome to another session of revision with senior weeks. So we did this session, we did a similar session with the CSEC Spanish students for the exam on Monday, and persons have been messaging on Instagram, etc. And of course, we are doing this for the CAPE students as well, yeah? So we will begin our session today going straight into it. We are looking at the CAPE Unit 1, Paper 2, examination. CAPE Unit 1, Paper 2, Spanish. Nice. So this is what we're looking at, and what we're going to do today, basically, a rough draft. We're going to look at the exam content, the topic and structure of the exam for this year. Topics, sorry, and content. Excuse me. We're also going to look at strategies to approach the questions. We will do a bit of grammar, vocabulary, that sort of stuff as we go through the content. And finally, we will end off, if you all have any questions, etc., we will entertain any questions, any comments, any doubts, that kind of thing, yeah? So as much as this will be provided to you all at the end of the session, and it will be put up on YouTube, the link to the PowerPoint will be put up on YouTube. By all means, you can make your notes in between as well as we go along, yeah? So first and foremost, listado de temas. So the themes or the topics that we're going to look at this time around this year with the change exam structure are health and fitness, forest fires, gender roles, employment and unemployment. You'll see I include something additional here when we reach there. Role of the media, religion, and education. Yeah. So as you should know by now, the exam is comprised of two sections, Section A and Section B. And in Section A, we need to write we need to respond to two reading comprehension passages. And in Section B, we need to write an essay. We will have a choice of 5 topics, and we need to write one essay. Choose one topic and write an essay on that topic, yeah? So as we see here, for the reading comprehension passages in Section A, Passage 1, the responses are in Spanish and is based on a Module 1 topic. If we just go back, you would notice that they already gave us the Module 1 topic, health and fitness. And Passage 2, it's based on a Module 3 topic, and the responses need to be in English. Section B, as I mentioned before, the Section B is an essay, but the topics for Section B come from Module 2. So we see the topics divided by module here as well, or highlighted by module as well. So you have gender roles, employment and unemployment, role of the media, religion in a multicultural society, and education. So these are the 5 topics for the essay. This is the topic for the second question, reading comprehension question, and for the first one here. Now, a point to note, and I've mentioned to you all as we were preparing to begin before, that there's some things that are not explicitly said on this slide. But one very key thing that we need to understand when approaching, especially the reading comprehension passages, we need to understand what are the skills required for each one. So, generally, reading comprehension, as it implies, reading to understand, and that would entail having a wide vocabulary in the specific subject areas that we see here. So the health and fitness, the forest fires. But for the first passage though, the fact that you are responding in your own words in Spanish, you have to find ways of rephrasing, stating an idea, expressing a thought without using back the exact words or without using back all the exact words that would have been in the passage. Yeah? So for example, if it is something is described as harmful in the passage, there are a bunch of words that you can use to describe something as harmful. You have dañoso, dañino, nocivo, etc. So, saying all of that to say, one of the things that we could do between now and tomorrow when the exam is there is look up some of the key vocabulary on these specific topics. You could use your wordreference.com. I would suggest wordreference.com more than the Spanish text, because in your wordreference.com, when you find a specific word, you can go to synonyms and you'll get a list of other expressions and stuff to express it the same way. So having that bank of words for some key phrases and words, and you will see it as we go along as well too in the slides, that would help you in a great deal to answer these both topics, but these here especially, the and the ones where we have to respond in Spanish. Where we have to respond in English, a little bit of our ability to translate is needed here. And when I say translate, not in an official or professional way, but to get a general sense and idea of what the passage is speaking about in English, to be able to communicate that in English. You may not know every single word. As a matter of fact, I don't expect that you all will know every single word, but the idea is to get a general idea of what is being said and to be able to communicate it effectively in English using context cues, etc., to communicate that. Your vocabulary comes in here as well because, as you may know, at the end of the passage, there are 5 words um, written in Spanish that you need to find the equivalent of those words in the passage. There are 5 words or phrases that will be at the end of the questions, and you need to find a word or phrase that is same or similar in meaning in the passage itself. Now, what I usually tell students, and once again, when we go into an actual exam question, but what I say to students is you get a hint already based on the type of word. If the word in the question itself here for the reading comprehension, if it's a word in the infinitive, the word in the passage will be in the infinitive as well, AR, ER, or IR ending. If it's a word in the past participle, similarly, the word in the passage will be in the past participle form, the ad or the edo form. If it's a verb that is conjugated in the third person in the preterite tense, él, ella, usted, etc., in the preterite tense, similarly in the passage, the equivalent word will be in that tense in the same person, etc. So that is a good head start to know, all right, you could, what's the word, by minimize or zone in on the specific words in the paragraph that you're looking for, because it would also inform you the paragraph that the word is found in, yeah? Nice, so let's move on. And we're looking at module 1. So module 1 deals with health and fitness, la salud y la forma física. So the question is, ¿qué es la salud? Or qué significa, sorry, ¿qué es la vida sana rather? What is our healthy life? And healthy life deals with la buena salud. Tiene que ver con vivir una vida de manera que el organismo pueda cumplir sus funciones con normalidad, right? Somebody is joining us. So, anybody wants to take, matter of fact, I'll go straight into it, right? So living a healthy life or leading a healthy life deals with tiene que ver con. So this phrase, tener que ver con, means to deal with or has to deal with, right? So make a note of that. Tener que ver con, that phrase means has to deal with or to have to deal with, right? It has to deal with living a life in a way or in such a way that the body or the organism, el organismo, I didn't highlight this one, but I should. So organismo is a phrase that means organism, but it could also refer to a body as in a human being or an animate, I don't want to say object, but a living being, like an animal, a human being, that sort of stuff. El organismo could mean organism, it could mean a body, as in, as I say, a living being. It could also mean a body, as in, for example, CARICOM, the European Union, the Teachers Association, Trinidad and Tobago Unified Teachers Association. So for example, our credit union body, organized union, any type of body like that, el organismo is a synonym can be used, that can be used synonymously in that way as well, right? So leading a healthy life has to deal with or has to do with living in such a way that one's body can fulfill certain functions with normalcy or without any additional work, right? And we see here some of the things that make up a healthy life. La vida sana. Sana is one word or adjective meaning healthy. Saludable can be used synonymously, right? So we could say sano or sana and saludable, right? With saludable, of course, because it ends in E, we don't have to change it based on the gender, right? So, un hombre saludable, una mujer saludable. A healthy man, a healthy woman, that sort of stuff, right? So, what are the things that constitute a healthy life? We have la alimentación saludable, healthy meals or healthy eating, la actividad física diaria, daily physical exercise or activity, and descansar correctamente, resting correctly, minimizar el estrés, minimizing stress, y encontrar tiempo para el ocio. Ocio is leisure activity, yeah? So finding times for leisure, and of course, no incurrir en vicios, not incurring or taking part in any vices. Por ejemplo, fumar, usar drogas, beber demasiado alcohol, esos son ejemplos de incurrir vicios, ¿no? Entonces, yo quiero comentar un poco sobre las palabras que tenemos aquí también, ¿ok? So just a quick commentary on some of the words that we find there. Let me just make up a note on this spot for you as well, right? So we have the words, we have some words here. We have one, which means to have to deal with or deals with, right? You all hearing me? You all hearing me loud and clear or no? Just a thumbs up from someone.
We're hearing.
Nice. Just one message here with the internet connection. So let's make sure. So we had tener que ver con. We also have el organismo, which means a body. An organism, it could also mean as well, right? And as we said, a body as in a living being or an organization, right? So una organización y un organismo, those are synonyms as well, right? We also found another thing that we looked at was saludable, sano, sana, which means healthy. And we have a synonym for that is saludable, sorry. You'll have noticed that I highlighted as well, se constituye, which means is constituted by, is made up of, right? And this is a nice way, is a nice substitute for the verb ser, right? It comes from the word constituirse. Right, so constituir means to constitute or to be made up. I made a mistake here. No, it's constituted by, is made up of, okay. So it's a nice substitute for the verb ser, right? So for example, we want to say, los alimentos saludables son las verduras, las frutas, los cereales, right? We want to say that healthy foods are vegetables, fruits, grains, etc. You can say instead, los alimentos saludables se constituyen por, are made up by, or se constituyen de, are made up of, right? Instead of using the verb ser. So the use of this is a nice substitute for the verb ser, right? The grammar points now that I want to make. So those were some vocabulary that we saw from that point. We saw the verb vivir being highlighted. Right? A very interesting point to note. How to explain it. In primary school, for ease, I would say for ease of explanation, we would have learned in primary school that the gerund is the ing form of the verb, correct? Does that sound familiar to anybody in Spanish? Well,
Yes.
does that sound familiar to anybody? Right. So we'd have learned in primary school, or we'd have learned that the gerund is the ing form of the verb, right? So the gerund is the noun. We're learning it a little bit more upscale now, a little bit more advanced, right? The gerund is the noun version of a verb. Think of it like this instead, right? The gerund is the noun version of a verb. So for example, we have the verb to run, right? The gerund is running, which is the name of the activity, right? Follow with me, right? Somebody message? No, okay. So the verb is to run in Spanish, right? Or in any language rather. The verb is to run, but the noun, I'm gonna write this so that it becomes easier to understand and read. The noun that we get from the verb to run is running. And running is the name of the activity in which we partake. You all following me so far?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Nice. As I
Yes.
say, I like the feedback so that I am just spacing ahead and everybody on the same page. So the verb is to run, but the noun is running, the name of the activity. In Spanish, one way of forming a gerund is by using the verb in the infinitive. So that is why we had, or we saw in the sentence, la buena salud tiene que ver con vivir una vida de manera. You all saw that? La buena salud tiene que ver con vivir una vida, etc. Right? So good health has to do with living a life. What is that? Right, living a life in a such and such way, right? In such a way that it doesn't be able to complete functions with normalcy, right? You all following me so far, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
With the gerund, it is understood that the word is masculine in gender. For example, el correr 2 veces por la semana ayuda a uno para mantenerse. So let's look at the sentence. This is a mistake, sorry. So the sentence would be, correr 2 veces por la semana ayuda a uno para mantenerse en forma. Running 2 times a week helps one or someone, any person, to keep in shape. So it is understood that correr here actually means el correr, or in other words, it's a masculine word, right? So this is the gerund here. Not actually that the person is running in the moment, right? Not saying that a specific person is running right now so that he runs, she runs, we run, etc. But the activity that we call running 2 times a week, right, helps us or helps one to maintain health. You all understand? So that's why many times we may see the infinitive and you have to read it like that. So this, the reason why I'm saying this is as well is to help in when you're reading comprehension passages to understand if it is you see it. Now, like always, you know, they say every good rule has an exception. So some exceptions would be where it is, the gerund is a totally different word. Someone has sent a message. Yes, correr is the gerund. That's the word in the infinitive, right? So some exceptions, for example, we may have el aprendizaje. Anybody knows what that word means? El aprendizaje. Well, have I met that word before?
Learning.
Learning. La enseñanza. Teaching. Right? These are some examples. In other words, in some cases, the gerund is a completely different word, right? Apart from the infinitive. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is because I'm trying to bring to your attention some very common language structures that we see in Cape, be it in your literature books, be it in your reading comprehension passages, etc. So 2 things need to take place. We need to be able to recognize these structures when we see it to help in our overall reading comprehension. And secondly, it is excellent for us to use them as well, right? Another construction that we need to know that is very imperative for this level is the passive voice. Anybody remembers or knows or heard of the passive voice? No? But never heard of it?
Voice. C.
Pardon?
C. I believe that the passive voice could be fue and then the past participle.
Okay, who's this? Trescoli speaking?
Yes, please.
Okay, so we form the passive voice in Spanish. Now, first and
I
foremost,
think that.
I don't like to assume that everybody knows, right? Sorry, I don't like to assume not everybody knows. So first and foremost, we'd have learned, or we should have learned from primary school days, you know, the passive voices when it's almost like as if we switch around the object and the subject of a sentence. So the action, the object does the action as opposed to being done onto the, as opposed to the action being done onto the subject. So the boy hit his younger brother, right? We change, that's the active voice. The boy, subject, hit the verb, his younger brother, object, right? Or the boy hit the desk, let's say the boy hit the wall, right? The boy hit the wall. In the passive voice now, we switch them around. The wall was hit by the boy. Y'all follow me? So that's the difference between the active and passive in English, and we see it similarly in Spanish. And to form the passive voice, we use the verb ser plus the past participle, right? Now, what is interesting about the past participle is that it changes based on number, and gender of the noun. So we'll see what that means in a sec, right? So anybody, the past participle, this part in the passive voice changes based on the number, meaning if it's singular or plural, and the gender of the noun. This here, the verb ser, it changes based on the tense. So for example, we may have the car hit, crash into the boy. 1 second. Right, so the car crashed into the boy. That is the active voice. To put it in the passive, we'll say the boy chocar con is the crash. Let's say the car hit, right? Boy hit his. Right, we had another problem here. The brother was hit by the boy. Okay. So let us see instead. Anybody want to give me a sentence? Somebody else give me a sentence. I'm thinking too hard about it. Anybody give me a normal sentence in English? Jonathan, Tiana, Naya, Leanne. Anybody has a sentence they'd like to volunteer?
The building was constructed in 1993.
Okay. So he built the building in 1993, right? The building was built in it was built by him in 1993, right? So he built the building in 1993. The building was built by him in 1993. So this then becomes, I don't know how to get the capital, the E with the accent, right? So él, let's give him a name instead. Carlos built the building in 1993. The building was built by. Nice. So how do we put this in Spanish based on what we just did? So we conjugate the verb ser based on the tense, and of course, if it's first person yo, second person tú, third person él, ella, usted, etc. We conjugate the verb based on that, and the past participle form, it changes based on the subject and the gender. So this is in the past. Remember, this is the passive voice, right? So in this case here, the built, which is the past participle, it has to agree with the building. Is it one building? Is it more than one? Right? Or is it masculine or feminine? Anybody want to take a try at conjugating this in Spanish? Let me do the first part, the active voice. Carlos construyó el edificio en 1993. Who wants to try this now?
El edificio de Fornido de Carlos en...
Give me the word after el edificio again, please. I don't hear what you said. El edificio fue, excellent, so I'm typing. Fue, from construir, yes. Remember, CONSTRUIR, we drop the IR, and because it's an IR, will be IDO. For ER and IR verbs, we are at IDO, right? So, el edificio fue construido por Carlos en 1993. Okay? So, we see how it moves around, right? The building becomes the subject of the sentence or the in front of the verb. And fue, if we wanted to say, for example, the buildings, it will become los edificios. I'm spelling that correct? Right. Fueron, they were construidos por. You all seen that? So look at how the verb changes and the past participle changes based on the subject. From el edificio fue construido, it becomes los edificios fueron construidos. If it were, for example, what's an example of a feminine noun? Something that was built. The table, la mesa. Right? So the table was fue construida. See, I already make a mistake. It's so easy just to make a mistake. Even I made a mistake. So la mesa fue construida por, if you want to say the tables, las mesas fueron, they were construidas por. You all with me?
Yeah.
All is well so far? Right. So we also have something that we call the substitute passive voice. 1 second. So what exactly is the substitute passive voice? The substitute passive voice is this. To form the substitute passive voice, we take the verb that is in the past participle in the normal passive voice. Or this could get a little bit confusing, so pay attention. So to form the substitute passive voice, we take the verb that is in the past participle. But before I continue, anybody heard of this before?
No.
No? Say construction. You all ever heard about this? The say construction? No? That's a no?
I think so. actually.
You think so? When they say it, maybe I've been called the say construction, right, of the passive voice. So to form it, the substitute passive or the say construction, as we call it, the passive voice, you take the verb that is in the past participle in the normal passive voice, and we conjugate that verb based on the tense and the person of the verb ser in the normal passive voice. What exactly do we mean? Let me repeat it now with this slide up for us to see. To form the substitute passive voice, we take the verb that is in the past participle, in this case construed, and we put it in the same tense as the verb ser and the same person as the verb ser in the normal passive voice. So the verb that is in the passive, the past participle, sorry, is construido, right? And the verb ser is fue, right? Past tense, or rather preterite tense, the third person singular, él, ella, usted, right? So how does the sentence become substitute passive? They say we take the verb construido and we change it. One sec, I forgot to add one more thing here. We add the construction say before the newly conjugated verb. So, el edificio fue construido por Carlos en 1993 becomes el edificio se, and then we take the verb construir and we put it in the preterite tense because Sarah was in the preterite tense, the el usted form, so it becomes construyo. You all seeing that? You all with me? Hello?
Go over one more time, please.
Sure. Somebody message in the chat. Okay. I'm going to go over one more time. Let me bring it up differently for you all. I think if it is just here too, it would help in understanding. Just 1 second. So let's look at this Spanish grammar and context, the passive voice, right? So we see in here recursive relationship between the subject and the verb in a sentence is said to be active. A sentence is said to be in the active voice if the subject is performing the action of the verb. For example, Juan leyó el libro. Juan read the book. Good day, Jamali. In this sentence, the subject, Juan, performs the action of reading the book, right? The passive voice, on the other hand, refers to a sentence in which the subject receives the action. In other words, the subject is passive, or it is acted upon, right? So, the book was read by Juan. Once again, the book was read by Juan. And in this sentence, the book receives the action performed by Juan. So let's look at ser plus the past of the verb is how we form the passive voice. Everybody was up to me, was with me up to that part, sorry. You all understood up to that part? Or you still need to
Yes,
move on?
sir.
Okay, nice. So once again, sir plus the past participle, and we conjugate sir depending on whichever tense the action is in, right? So these works were made by a Mexican artist. Estas obras fueron because his works plural, they were realizadas, as, and then because his las obras, feminine and plural, right? So estas obras fueron realizadas por un artista mexicano. These works were made by a Mexican artist, right? And we see that is usually preceded by por here, por and whoever the person is, right? Se refieren a una persona que a la mejor de origen hispano o mexicano que fue creada. Let's look at this here, right? Fue creada as well, right? That's another example of the passive voice there, right? Now we're looking at the substitute passive or passive with the verb ser, with the pronoun ser, say, sorry, right? We have say plus the third person of the verb, right? Whatever tense it is usually in the third person form. So the verb is conjugated in the third person, either singular or in the plural, depending on the subject, right? So if we wanted to put the same sentence, these works were realized by a Mexican artist, it will become estas obras se, and remember, as I said, we're taking this verb that was in the past participle, we put in this verb in the same tense and person as the verb ser here, in this case, fueron. So we have third person plural in the preterite tense. So once again, to form the substitute passive, we're taking out this, and instead, we're taking out the initial construction, and instead we're taking the verb that was in the past participle, realizar was realizadas, and instead we are conjugating it in the same tense as the verb ser. And that will be realizaron. So it will become estas obras se realizaron. Does that clear it up for us? Or we still kind of unsure?
Still kind of confused by Jack digits.
It's still kind of confusing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So let's look at some examples of sentences in the passive voice. Yes, trascole fabricadas can work as well. Passive voice practice. Let's see if we get any games or anything that we could play here. So let's look at these here. Las noticias, the news, were announced by the chancellor. So, las noticias, how would we put this in the passive voice? Would it be fueron anunciados, fueron anunciadas, fue anunciada, or fue anunciado? Anybody want to guess? I think by practicing it, it may become clearer to us. So let's try a couple examples. And we'll
The second one?
Pardon?
The second?
Okay, yes. So fueron, they were the verb, they were announced. So were is they were, in this case, becomes fueron, and announced anunciadas because it's agreeing with the last noticias, right? So we see we are correct there. Bien. Next question. Something a lot of persons in the concert, right? So se the answer here will be se espera, right? But fue esperado would have been what it was in the normal passive, right? So a lot of persons were hoped for in the concert. You all with me? Esperar here, esperar means to hope or to wait for. And if it is we want this, the sentence is trying here to say a lot of persons, mucha gente, were hoped for, esperar means to hope for, or were waited on in the concert. So gente, third person singular, right? We say la gente es, right? Third person singular. So this would have been es esperada mucha gente en el concierto. It becomes se espera. Still confusing?
No.
Anybody, you could private message me if you think it's still confusing to you. By all means, I'll explain it. A different way. Okay, you know in the Zoom, you can message me instead of the whole class, right? Let's see if I could try one more. La respuesta ya means already. So the response was already given. Anybody want to try this one?
The second one?
Right, fue dada. But before I click it, because when I click it, anyway, it will tell you a thing. I had to choose to move on. If we wanted to express this in a substitute passive, we put se, se, and then we say dada, we say, all right, that has to be, that dada comes from the verb dar, but we need to change it or conjugate it in the same way we would have conjugated ser, which is the third person singular preterite. So diste, dio, third person singular, right? So it would have been la respuesta ya se dio. Understand? Thumbs up, thumbs down, etc. Okay.
Can you repeat that?
Las autorizaciones. The answer was la respuesta. The question was la respuesta ya. The question was why am I writing in caps? La respuesta ya. And we had to choose an answer. The answer was fue dada. Fue comes from the verb ser, as we learned just now there. It was that comes from the verb dar, which means given, right? Ya means already, and it goes before the conjugated verb. The response was already given. And what I'm saying is that to form the substitute passive, we write a mag the sentence the same way, la respuesta, but to form the substitute passive, or the se passive as we call it, we use the pronoun se, and we conjugate the verb that was previously in the past participle. In this case, it's dada. We conjugate it in the same way we conjugated ser before. So ser was conjugated in the third person, the el state form in the preterite tense. We conjugate dar the same way, and it becomes dio. So la respuesta ya se dio. All right? The most important thing is, the reason why I'm teaching you this is because I want you, here's the reason why I'm teaching you this. You could easily mistake it for a verb for a reflexive verb, sorry. So whenever you see a verb with say before it, and you're trying to do your reading comprehension and trying to figure out what it is being said here, ask yourself two questions. Is this a reflexive verb? Is it a verb where the action of the verb is done back onto me? And if it's not a verb like that, then most likely It's what you call the substitute passive. Yeah, the substitute passive voice. And when we're looking at the example in our exam paper, we'll see if we find any examples in the passage as well that shows that, right? So let's go back to the PowerPoint. Right, perfect. So we have an example here. I'm seeing somebody by the name of Jamal rejoin. When it has say at the end of the word, as a question came through, what do we call it when it has say at the end of the word? When say is at the end of the word and we have the word ending, the verb ending, sorry, the AR, ER, or IR, that's simply a reflexive verb. So that's why I said, that is why it's something that it can be confusing, may come across as confusing. Let's see, this is the paper 2. Right, so El Secreto de la Felicidad. This was actually a topic on health as well. And it's interesting, this is from the syllabus, the specimen that they gave. It's interesting as well because you would think of health as maybe something to do with physical health and fitness, but this is almost like a mental health thing when you're talking about happiness, right? So en la isla llamada Metoma, en el extremo norte de Vanuatu, John Pep puede mirar a su alrededor y realmente decir que es dueño de todo lo que ve. Oh, thank you. I'm not sharing that screen. Let me share my entire screen. Right, so en la isla llamada Metoma, en el extremo norte de Vanuatu, John P. John puede mirar a su alrededor y realmente decir que es dueño de todo lo que ve. Este hecho pone a John P. en un club exclusivo conformado por comerciantes millonarios, miembros de la realeza y estrellas de rock. Pero John P. no es ninguna de esas cosas. De hecho, no podría ser más diferente. En Metoma, John P. y su familia viven en chozos de paja. No tienen electricidad, ni agua corriente, ni radio, ni televisión. Y su único medio de transporte es un bote con remos, lo que limita la capacidad de viajar a solo la isla vecina. Encima, no tiene mucha plata y menos oportunidades por conseguirla, pero la realidad es que su familia realmente vive feliz, aunque suene raro, particularmente a quienes viven en la isla no les falta nada. Right. Let me just do a quick translation, and I'll come to an example here. In the island called Metoma, which is in the extreme north of Vanuatu, John can look at everything surrounding him and really say that he is the owner of everything that he says. This fact puts John P. in an exclusive club formed or conformed by or made up by millionaires and members of royalty and rock stars. But John P. is none of these things. In fact, he is very much different. Or he could not have been more different, rather. In Metoma, John P. and his family live in, this is like straw huts. They don't have electricity, neither running water, neither radio or television, and their only means of transport is a boat with, what does call this thing in English again? Oars, paddles, right? Which limits his capacity to travel to only the neighboring island. On top of it all, he does not have a lot of money and less opportunities. Conseguir means to obtain. It's a synonym for obtener. And he has less opportunities to obtain it. That's money, right? But the reality is that the family of John, or John P. John, they really live happy. Although it sounds rare, particularly for those who live in cities. In the island where John P. lives referring to, he is in need of nothing, right? He doesn't need anything. All the food that they consume is eaten in or near from Metoma. Toda la comida que consumen se consigue. This is an example of the substitute passive, and it would have been written, the verb conseguir becomes conseguido in the past participle form. So the normal passive, this would have been written as es conseguida, because it is referring to the food, all the food that he consume or eat, right? So this would have been es, present tense, conseguida, present tense of the verb ser, es, present tense of the verb ser, conseguida. So here's what they did. They take the conseguida, which is the verb conseguir in the past participle, and they conjugated the way the verb would have been, the verb ser would have been conjugated. Es, which is the present tense, third person singular. So yo consigo, tú consigues, ella, usted consigue. So you see, once again, we are seeing the substitute passive and the fact that it's always used in the third person singular or the third person plural form. So either se consigue or se consiguen, right? Certainly, everybody see that? You all see that? You understand the point that I just made? The comparison with what we just learned?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes, sir.
Nice. Jamali, I know you joined us a bit late. You're joining us from Jamaica as well, Jamali?
Yes. Good morning, yes, sir.
Pardon?
I'm saying yes. I understand it.
Nice, perfect. So certainly the food is so simple to obtain for the family that it seems that the family seems contar con. Anybody ever met this before? As I said, there are certain words, there are certain phrases, there are certain grammatical structures that repeat at the cape level, sorry. Contar con is an upscale way of using the verb tener. In Form 5 level, we should have learned contar con. Contar means to count.
To count on.
Right. In Form 5 level, we should have learned contar con as meaning to count on somebody. So yo puedo contar con mi mamá para todo. I can count on my mother for everything. Cuenta conmigo. Count on me. In the present tense, the O changes to UE, radical changing. But contar con, take a note of it, contar con also means tener or to have. So the food is so simple to, or so easy to obtain, that it seems that the family has a lot of time to relax themselves. So somebody had asked about the say at the end of the sentence. This is an example of a reflexive verb as opposed to a verb in the substitute passive. You see in the infinitive, the AR ending, and they say, but relajar means to relax oneself. The verb, the action of the verb can be done unto oneself, right? Relax yourself. So it's not, in some instances, we just have to learn of the verbs to know if they're reflexive. So the point I was making, started off making, contar con is a synonym for tener, right? When the Johns or the Johns family have some money, perhaps after selling one of their cows, they buy powdered soap, kerosene for their lamps, etc., right? And if not, they can, I'll be honest with you all, I looked up this before and I forgot what it means, but it most likely means that they can deal with or they can live with what they can find in their house. And I'm glad at the fact that I forgot this so that you all know and that you don't stress out yourself too much tomorrow, knowing that you may not know every single word, right? Most times these articles are from like BBC Mundo, that sort of stuff, some of these sites, CNN, etc. And I'll put the links for those below so that you could look up articles on health and just do some reading in preparation for the exam tomorrow on the specific topic, right? So Vanuatu has been found year after year as the most happiest country in the world. What is the secret of happiness then? Not having to worry about money, responds John Bear without a doubt. if one asks the same question in England or in any other country, surely you would receive the same answer. The difference is that in the case of John Pierre, not having to worry about money means not needing to have it, and not needing to have it, as opposed to not wanting to have millions, right? Happiness for John Pierre is la felicidad de John Pierre es más que cuestión, right? The happiness of John Pierre is more than a question of money. It comes also from having your family nearby, and there's no doubt that there's a great amount of respect amongst each other, the family members, right? If happiness can be measured or not is debatable. Si se puede or no, if it can be done or not. Medir means to measure happiness. So if happiness can be measured or not is debatable. So in other words, it's not sure if happiness can be measured or not. But there's no doubt that Metoma, or the whole of Vanuatu, has cuenta con, we see it's being used again, has the ingredients to inspire it, right? The two pillars, los dos pilares de la clásica vida feliz, right? So the two pillars of a classical or traditional happy life, right? Strong family bonds and the general absence of materialism are common in this nation. And then we have some questions, which you have to answer in Spanish in our own words. ¿Por qué dice que el artículo que John P. pertenece a un club exclusivo? ¿Quiénes más pertenece a este club? ¿Por qué dice el artículo, etcétera, etcétera? I'm not going to go through every single one because we have limited time, right? But look at this. If we go, and as I said, the link to this is in the PowerPoint, which will be sent to you. But more importantly, we fast forward past the literature part, and there's an answer scheme that CAPE has as well. So, this is unit 2. Marks, you know, figure that out. Did I pass it out? Ready? No. So we have the mark scheme, which guides us as to how they go about marking. I wonder if I passed it already. 1 second. Huh? Right, unit 1, paper 2. So, why is he said to be owner of every, part of a special club? Because he is todo lo que ve lo rodea pertenece a él, right? All that he sees or that surrounds him. So the passage you would have used a su alrededor. Here you could use the verb rodear. Rodear means to surround as well, right? So you see how they would have put it in their own words, right? So for stating that fact, you get 1 mark, right? Who are the other persons that pertain to that, that special group? Members of La Familia Real. In the passage you use de la realeza, right, of royalty. To state it in your own words, members of the royal family or members of a royal family. Estrellas de rock, you could have said estrellas de música, hombres de negocios millonarios, right? I think they said comerciantes millonarios. So the point I'm making here is that the mark scheme, contrary to popular belief, does not pertain to how much you need to write. The mark scheme pertains to the specific pieces of information or details that they would like you to include in your answer. So in this one, you could have either said all that he sees or all that is around him belongs to him. Es el suyo. For just stating that fact, you get the 1 mark. For the 3-mark question, when they ask who else pertains to this group, 3 groups are stated, not 3 words, but pieces of information. Sometimes those pieces of information can be a word, right? But in some instances, they are not, especially at this level. Let's look back at this one that was 4 marks. if you notice here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 pieces of information can be chosen from the passage to get the answer. Cape is looking for the person to include any 4 to get the 4 marks. Right? The answer says, ¿por qué a diferencia de los otros? ¿Por qué a diferencia de los otros miembros ricos? Sorry, I need to see the question. Right, so they say, why does the article say, ¿por qué dice el artículo that John Pay is different from the other members of the club? Justify your response using an example. So why is he different from the others? And the response says, porque a diferencia de los otros, because different from the others. 1 second. Right. Because different from the other rich members, he doesn't have electricity. So for including not having electricity, you get 1 mark. For including not having potable water, you could get another mark for that. For including not having radio, not having television, not having means of transport, living in a hut, including 4 out of any of those 6 gives you the mark. You all understand?
Yes, sir.
So once again, keep in mind that it is not how much you save, but the mark scheme guides us as to how many pieces of information or details need to be included in our response. Yeah. How y'all feeling? Let me get some right in the chat. Let's get some comments on how you're feeling. I know it's a lot, and we still only on the first, what you call it? Reading comprehension. Need to just cool off the brain for 2-3 minutes. Yes, all right, so just take 2 or 3 minutes, grab a sip of water, and we come back, right? I'm just gonna pause the recording for a sec. Right, so let us continue now, moving on to the next section. Excuse me. Let me just point out one more thing, which I didn't. Oh no, my bad. I thought I missed out something, but I didn't. So the other passage that we're seeing is based on El Medio Ambiente, right? If you look back at the topics, forest fires in particular, so they tell us the specific topic. Under health and fitness, you could get, as I say, it could be physical health, it could be mental health topics. But we got the specific thing here for Module 3, which Module 3 deals with the environment. And we got the specific thing, forest fires, right? So we have a short note generally on the environment and one on forest fires. So, ¿qué es el medio ambiente? El medio ambiente, or you may also hear el ambiente, or you may also hear el entorno. Let me just highlight that as well. All those are different synonyms for it, right? El medio ambiente es un sistema, a system formed by natural and man-made elements that are interrelated and modified due to human action, right? It deals with the environment that forms or condition the type of life that we have in society. And it includes values or natural values, social, cultural, and natural values that exist in a specific place. So what is definition is given us is a definition of the environment in a physical sense and in a non-physical sense, right? So the environment, the physical environment made up of the natural and man-made, I don't use back the word environment, but natural environment, natural and man-made elements of where we live, that sort of stuff, yeah? They are both interrelated. So it will deal with the trees, the forests, the waterways, that sort of stuff. But at the same time, the cities, the buildings, that kind of thing that comprise the city, roadworks and roadways, that sort of stuff. And we also have the definition here that gives us of the environment from our intangible sense, dealing with how we create environment and the values, these societal values, cultural values, and norms of the environment, yeah? Specific to forest fires, los incendios forestales, un incendio is a fire, and well, forestales is the adjective describing forest fires. So forest fires are fires that are out of the control, or that are out of control, sorry, in a natural area, such as anybody know what is un bosque? You met that word before?
Forest.
All right, a forest. Un bosque is a forest. Pastizales, pastias, y praderas, plains as well, right? It often begins inadvertently, a menudo comienzan inadvertidos, se propongan rápidamente y pueden dañar recursos naturales, destruir hogares y amenazar la seguridad de la población y de los bomberos. Right? It is propagated or brought about quickly, and it can damage natural resources. It can destroy homes. It can threaten the security of persons, the population, especially those of firefighters that have to put themselves in harm's way to out these forest fires and stuff, right? Once again, as I said, I put in notes here some articles on forest fires for you to read upon, just to get a general idea of it. And of course, this is not an exhaustive list. You can search the internet for that as well. Sit un sistema. Why did I highlight this word? It is very common in Spanish that we see words that end in the suffix me. Now, all of these words end in MA, and you see the last letter there, A, you may think that it's feminine, but no. These words are usually masculine. So, un sistema, el problema, etc. Right? You all met those before? Many times we make the error and put it as feminine word, but it's actually masculine. Most times when we see words like that, tema, sistema, problema, they are masculine, right? Most times, and I didn't say all the time. Son modificados, once again, another example of the preterites are modified. If we wanted to put this in the, and this is referring to, one second, elementos naturales y artificiales, right? But if you wanted to put this in a substitute passive, can somebody type in the chat, whether private or not? But can somebody type in the chat and put this in a substitute passive for me based on what we just learned?
Which one are we putting in the passive?
Son modificados, if you put it in a substitute passive or the passive voice using the say, the preposition say, can somebody attempt it for me? A funny thing, I know persons usually don't like to be wrong, but that's the best way to learn. To be wrong in the classroom as opposed to in here. When someone has written it, please let me know. Anybody yet? This thing given some trouble. Answer. Okay, so it becomes se modifica. Se modifican. Son is the verb ser in the preteritense, the ellos, ellas associated form. And you put the preposition say before. Se trata de can also be used as tiene que ver con, right? Has to do with. Se trata de means it has to do with or it deals with. I repeat, se trata de means it deals with or it has to do with. And that is another, that's a synonym for tiene que ver con. And finally, I highlighted existen because many times we use the word I, H-A-Y, H-A-Y, H-A-Y. Existen is a better way or a more upscale way of expressing the same thing in Spanish for purposes of Form 6 level. So instead of saying hay dos razones or hay cinco maneras de mantener la forma o mantener la salud, existen. We could use exist from the verb existir instead, right? To exist. All these would help you in your writing and your expression, right? So we move on immediately now to letter writing. As a matter of fact, before we do that, let me just go quickly and show you an example of what I was speaking about in the passages where we write where we responding in English. You all see my screen on too far. We're in unit 1. Unit 2, we need to go back to unit 1. Right, ¿Cómo salvar a los mamíferos, right? So, we write any answers in English, which is a lot easier, but I want us to pay attention to the point I was making here. Fill in the text, sorry, find in the text, wow. Find in the text the words or phrases that are similar in meaning to the following expressions. So the point I was making before, a little hint to use, llevado a cabo. If we look at the structure of this word, llevado, it ends in ado, that means it is the past participle form, right? Llevado a cabo. So the fact is this, whatever the word that we find in paragraph 1, that is similar and same in meaning to this, it will be in the same form. Let's see, we go to paragraph 1. I already know the answer, by the way. Realizado, un nuevo estudio realizado por investigaciones. Realizado means fulfilled, not realized, but fulfilled. Fulfilled, sorry. Llevado a cabo means carried out. Llevar a cabo means to carry out. Now, peor. Let's look. A word in paragraph 1 that is similar in meaning to peor. Anybody remembers what peor means? You can message or say it anytime.
Worse.
Worst. Worst is an adjective describing something, right? So we're looking for an adjective. Paragraph 1, peor. Es más grave de lo que se cree. Esos investigadores, mapas, esos cerca de planeta riesgo habitan. So the answer here is grave, right? Más grave. Grave means what? Grave or deadly, right?
Serious?
Serious, nice. So it's an adjective once again. You see that? Escoger in paragraph 2. What does escoger mean? Anybody knows? Escoger means what? To choose. Excellent. But if we look at it, we notice this verb is in the ellos, associated form in the preterite tense. Similarly, whatever word we're looking for in paragraph 2 to find it must be in the preterite tense, the ellos, associated form. Los investigadores eligieron. You'll see how simple it becomes. Let's see how many verbs we have in that form in the passage. Funcionant, nope, 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 nope. So that's the only word in this paragraph, sorry, that is preterite tense, third person, plural, the ellos ustedes version. So you see how simple it makes it when we could try and figure out, all right, if it's Aaron, it had to be Aaron or Aaron as well, etc. Right? Encantadores in chapter 2. Let's paragraph 2, sorry. Let's look and see. Forget the word. Encantadores. Los investigadores de ser animales carismáticos tienen un papel hasta arriba. What do you think the answer is here, anybody?
Repeat.
Huh? What is the word that is same or similar meaning to encantadores? Let me give you a hint. Encantar means to like, right? But it could also mean like to enchant somebody.
Charismáticos.
Exactly, excelente. Carismáticos. And as you notice, cantadores, right? Masculine, plural, adjective, right? Enchanting animals. And finally, impulsar, paragraph 5, 1 mark. What do we notice about the verb here? The word here first and foremost. That will guide us to know how what we're looking for. Anybody? It's a verb in the infinitive, right? The A-R-E-R-O-I-R, and then it's a verb in the infinitive. So similarly in paragraph 1, we're looking, paragraph 5, we're looking for impulsar, which means to push. You're going to be looking for a word that is similarly in that in the infinitive form, that is similarly to push. Se requiere de mucho esfuerzo y sobre todo de colaboración de los países para que...
Esfuerzo.
I didn't hear what you said.
Esfuerzo.
Remember, it has to be a word in the infinitive. Esfuerzo means effort.
Would it be actuar?
We getting warmer. No, it's not actuar.
O
What
poder?
does impulsar mean?
Huh?
What does impulsar mean?
It sounds like impose.
Right, it sounds like impulse as well, right? Impulsar actually means to push. So what, based on that, what do you think the answer will actually be? Anybody? Am I only looking for the words in the infinitive in the passage?
Mover?
Excellent, mover. Right? So we see how we go about it. I just checked it up here. It means to push or to propel, right? To promote, to boost. All those are the synonyms for impulsar, right? So let's go back to our PowerPoint. We're looking at essay writing now. Now, essay writing, I know sometimes it's difficult for persons, but I stress, and I can't stress enough. I literally cannot stress enough. Get your structure down, your formatting of your essay, get that down pack. And that only comes down pack through planning, proper planning for your essay. Okay? How do you plan for your essay? You have a topic, you First thing you try and do is write a thesis statement. Come up with that. Well, before you even come up with the thesis statement, try and come up with vocabulary around the topic. So if it's something on religion, if it's something on gender, if it's something on the media, you write down as many vocabulary real quick as you could about the topic, trying to answer the question, and then you formulate a thesis statement. It is so imperative that you formulate a thesis statement because a thesis statement basically summarizes your point of view for the essay. A thesis statement states what you're going to write about your essay, right? So don't forget the structure, your introduction, which the last sentence is your thesis statement, by the way, the last sentence of introduction. And it gives you a point of view, your take on the topic being written about. Then you have your body paragraphs. The body should be 3 to 4 paragraphs on average. And the topic sentence is the first sentence of each paragraph. So the topic sentence begins each paragraph in the body. And what the topic sentence does is that it summarizes or says, this is what I'm going to speak about. It gives it in general terms, what you're going to speak about in your actual essay, right? And the point is here that the reason why I say 3 to 4, I would suggest 3 points that argue in your point or that support your point, and 1 point just showing the opposite, right? 1 point just stating or showing that you understand that there's another side of the argument as well, right? Which is almost like if you're doing it as a compare and a contrast, right? By doing this, it helps you to boost up your mark as well. And finally, conclusion summarizes what would have been said before. The conclusion never, I repeat, it never, and it never, ever, ever should ever add any additional information that was not given in the course of the essay before. Yes, so shall ask, oh, sorry, I'm supposed to be a private message. So a student asks if you could do 2, 4, and yeah. You can, but I'm telling you that the strongest footing you would place yourself on is by doing it 3, 4, and 1 against. But you can do it like that, or you can do 3 for your points, 3 that agrees with your point of view as well, right? With regard to the content, your thesis statement, make sure it summarizes your point of view, or the essay in 1 sentence is your thesis statement. Somebody must be able to read a thesis statement and like, okay, I understand. This essay is going to talk about X, Y, and Z. To the point, right? Topic sentence is the sentence that begins each body paragraph, right? And it tells us what it's going to speak about. After you list your topic sentence, what your paragraph should do is give examples of what it is the point you make or what is stated, elaborate on it, or give statistics where applicable, right? As best as possible, you should try and use statistics and use words to make your points flow, right? Entonces, to express your point of view. A mí morir ver, from my point of view. Luego, adicionalmente, etc. Primero. You could start off a sentence with primero, segundo, etc. Right? Your topic sentence rather. Right? So use those sentences. They will make for you getting your points that you need to get. Right? So 5 topics are gender roles, employment and unemployment, role of the media, religion, and education. One second. It's an excellent question is being asked here. Do statistics have to be from actual sources, or can we make them up to seem believable, like we can say according? I don't want to say you should make them up, but you could use certain phrases that would help as well. For example, say D, say K. It is said that. Los expertos dicen que, all right, and this in the Zoom chat, right? Ah, sorry, I wrote it to the one person I messaged me. So se dice, excuse me, or say dicen, or it is said that, or they say that. Once again, as an example of the substitute passive, se dice, right, would have been es dicho. It is dicho said, right? The series is in the present tense, um, just like es dicho, right? So se dice means it is said, and what was the other one I said just now? You could also say los expertos dicen. Those are two phrases or expressions you could use to try and bring in the whole idea of what do you call it? The whole idea of experts giving advice. Excuse my yawning, guys. Going back to the slide. So we have the 5 topics: gender roles, employment and unemployment, role of the media, religion, and education. And let's look at each one of them. With some very quick notes. So gender roles. Whenever we get a topic on gender, it always asks for our point of view. It will always make a almost always make a controversial statement, like the place of the woman is in the home or something like that. And the key to answering the questions on gender roles, on gender stereotypes, is to understand what were, I would like to think is what were the traditional gender roles in Hispanic society, Latin American society. So some of those roles are the perspectives of view of men and women in society. How were men viewed in Hispanic society? How were women viewed in Hispanic society, right? Man was viewed as macho, and we have the whole notion of machismo. You all should have learned about that in literature, correct? Depending on the book you do, especially. You all ever heard about machismo?
Yes,
Yeah?
sir.
Yeah, nice. So we have that whole idea of a man being macho and all that comes with that, the aggression, the um something similar to English, of course. You have the whole idea of honor, the whole idea of aggression, the whole idea of honor, the whole idea of oh gosh, the word was just in my head now. My God. Um, don't forgive me. Anyway, it will come back. So we have the whole idea of machismo and men being seen, right? Not showing emotions, that sort of stuff. Yeah, that's what I was forgetting to say. So this whole notion, which is encompassed in machismo, the honor especially is a huge deal. It is seen that, listen, a man's name must be honored, a man's family, he must show honor to his family, that sort of stuff. I don't know if you all do in the book, if it's, I don't teach literature personally in my school, but I don't know if you all do, if the book is done still and if you all do it. But this book, Crónica de una muerte anunciada, Chronicle of a Death Foretold by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, where it spoke about the brothers honoring the sister, the family honor, because the sister was found to not be a virgin on the night of her wedding, that kind of thing. Going so far as killing the guy who would have been their brother-in-law. Somebody sent a message. Okay. right? So that's why when we talk about machismo and macho, it encompasses that. Fuerza, generally, the man is seen as his strength within family, within society, physical strength, domineering, yeah, having a big personality, that sort of stuff, seen as being the independent one, right? The man will go out and search, leave his home and go out in search of his bride, while the woman is dependent not only on her husband, but waiting on this person to come and rescue you on your knight in shining armor, that kind of thing, right? Woman, let me do them in a comparison instead. Woman is seen as weak and that sort of stuff, and you have the Marianismo as well, which is the opposite of the machismo, and these are Spanish words here, right? The Marianismo, where it is the woman is seen to be, she needs to be pure, she needs to be sacred, put aside, put apart, that sort of stuff, yeah? Then you have further roles, productive. Man is seen to be, you need to be productive. The man needs to be the one that gets up and goes on farms and goes on, um, finds food, fetches food, that kind of thing, yeah? Production within society and the family. And woman is seen as reproducing, reproducir, criar a los niños. Let me add that. Okay, what did I do? Right, criar a los niños, taking care of the kids. Yes, somebody's asking a question. The heading should be De las Mujeres. Thank you. I copied and paste. Thank you for pointing out that. So, roles tradicionales de las mujeres, right? It is seen as the man as being one that belongs to the public space. You know, they say, well, with women, they used to say long time, they must be seen and not heard. But the man is the one that goes out and, as I say, gets the dinner, that goes out and is seen as a public figure, that kind of thing, yeah? Whereas the woman is seen as pertaining to or belonging to the private space or the home, right? As I say, I'm not saying these things are true. I'm saying that these are some of the traditional thinkings in Latin American society. But everything that we do, especially in the essay, we write it from the perspective of Latin American society, right? Economic value, it brings economic value. That's what the man sees as well, whereas the woman doesn't. So these are some of the stereotypes, some of the thinkings on gender that exist in the Hispanic world. What did I do? Okay. Then we have the whole topic of employment and unemployment. And I even included here underemployment, or what we call el subempleo. So employment, el empleo, unemployment, el desempleo. You could also see the word el paro, P-A-R-O. That also means unemployment, right? Look out for that. Don't be surprised if they bring it and they use that word in particular. And we have subempleo or underemployment. Now, we need to understand employment from the perspective of persons that actually are able to work. So you all would not be considered in the statistics for the unemployment for a country. Why? In some cases, you all are still minors. In other cases, or in every case rather, you all are students. So because of that, you won't be considered. So whenever we're speaking about employment and unemployment, always understand that we're speaking about it from the perspective of the persons that actually can work. So, el empleo es la población en edad de trabajar que tiene un trabajo. So, the population within the working age that has a job. El desempleo o el paro es la población en edad de trabajar que no tiene un trabajo, que está en busca de un trabajo y tiene la capacidad de trabajar. So, when count persons que son discapacitadas, personas discapacitadas, no. You wouldn't count oh my gosh, discapacitada. ¿Qué significa? The English word is leaving me again. Persons that are handicapped. Thank you, right. So it wouldn't count handicapped persons who are unable to work due to their handicap in the employment and unemployment statistic, right? So, unemployment, el desempleo, el paro, tiene que ver con, o se trata de, remember we meant those two phrases before, the population within the working age that does not have a job, that is searching for a job, and that has the ability to work, right? Some causes of unemployment, and this will come in excellent as well in writing your essay topics as well. If they ask, they may say that, for example, like I've seen a topic that said that this is government's responsibility to provide jobs for everybody within a country. You may disagree, you may say no, yeah? You may say that there's too much money, you may say that how, due to the fact that there's el sector privado, there's a private sector, persons can become unemployed for different reasons. Political and economic instability, inestabilidad política y económica. So, for example, for the persons in Trinidad, an example of this would be the case of Venezuela, right? And coming back to the whole point about including facts and stuff in your essay, this is one of the ways you could do it. You mightn't be quoting a specific number of a statistic, but you're stating some sort of fact that is happening worldwide, right? In the Latin American world. In Venezuela, this is happening. Unemployment is caused due to political and economic instability. Nice. Also, cierre de empresas, the closing of businesses, that also causes unemployment. We have avances tecnológicos, right? Technological advancements. Simply put, persons no longer needed, they become obsolete because a machine can do the same thing that you're doing. La falta de inversiones, the lack of investments as well, very important. That could cause unemployment. Let's say, for example, you go on to study a degree in theater arts, right? You go on to study a degree in theater arts and you finish university, but in your country, there isn't an industry that is set up for theater arts. There isn't an industry where it is, you know, there's somebody with a production company or some sort of stuff where it is they always have plays, where it is they always need persons to act, that kind of thing. There isn't a Hollywood, for example, yeah? So say, for example, many persons, and to use the United States as an example, I think is best because persons will understand it. But we all know Hollywood as being the place where it is persons go to fulfill their dreams of becoming an actor, that kind of thing, right? But Hollywood does not only comprise persons that are native to Hollywood. You'll find a lot of persons that came there because whichever city they came from, the infrastructure was not set up. There was not investment into that specific field of work or field, right? There isn't a Hollywood, there isn't a casting company, there isn't a, oh gosh, production company, right? You may have, let's say it might be in makeup artistry, but specifically makeup artistry for TV, for television, right? So things like these, if it is there isn't an industry for certain things, or there may not be sufficient investment into the industry, persons can become unemployed as well. Because with the limited investment, the few jobs that they have, they may already be taken up, that sort of stuff. Businesses close down for different reasons. Poor management, right? La falta de gestión o mala gestión, M-A-L-A, mala gestión, G-E-S-T-I-O accent N, mala gestión de los recursos, poor management of the resources, right? All these are examples and reasons why somebody may become unemployed, right? So very strong points you could use for your essays. The role of the media, los medios masivos, right? Whenever we hear media, many times we think of like TV, that sort of stuff. But the media has certain areas to break it down. We have los medios impresos, or print media, los periódicos, newspapers, las revistas, etc. We have los medios audiovisuales, audio, visual, or audio and visual media. Television is an example of that, the radio as well, right? Television, not so much many years ago, but the radio definitely since the century has been the main source of media, and it still continues to be, even with social media and everything, right? And we have los medios digitales, las redes sociales, el internet, la red, etc., right? We also have digital media, which comprises the internet or social networks, right? La red, el, you could see el internet, you can see la internet. Both are used interchangeably, right? So it's good to note that las redes sociales is how we say social media. Any questions so far? Let me stop. I'm going to just go straight ahead. Any questions so far before we move forward?
No.
Okay. We understanding so far? Is it helpful? Give me your feedback. What say you all? Okay, I guess a thumbs up. Okay, nice. So we continue. The role of the media. No, okay. El rol de los medios masivos. You could see medios masivos as a word to describe the media. Los medios de comunicación masivos, or simply los medios de comunicación. You may see either one of them, right? So, el propósito principal de los medios de comunicación es precisamente comunicar con objetividad, pero según su tipo de ideología pueden especializarse en informar, educar, transmitir, entretener, formar opinión, enseñar, controlar, etc. So the purpose, propósito here means purpose. A synonym for propósito is objeto, right? A synonym is it objeto or objetivo? 1 second, let me verify that. Right, objetivo, not objeto. Oh, I thought somebody messaged. Yeah. So the purpose of the main purpose of the main purpose of media is exactly or precisely to communicate with the objectivity, sorry, right? Meaning unbiased. Anybody knows how to say unbiased? No. Sin perjuicios. So without prejudice. Perjuicios, prejudice. So sin perjuicios, right? So the ability to communicate objectively, but of course, according to or sticking to some type of ideology, which can specialize or be specializing that ideology, and the objective communication may have the purpose of informing, of educating, of transmitting information, of entertaining, entretener, entertain. Usually whenever we have something and tener, whereby we have a prefix before tener, tener is the equivalent of T-A-I-N or teen. So mantener becomes maintain. Understood? Right? Also to form opinions, formar opinion, enseñar, to teach, and controlar. Yes, the mass media can be used to control. Anybody knows an example of where the mass media is used to control? In this side of the world, in our side of the world, the Caribbean, Western Hemisphere. Okay, an example of that will be Cuba. where it is we still have a communist government. You also, there were some protests in Cuba recently, like within this week or so, against the communist government. So for example, with the mass media in Cuba, the internet is difficult to come by. It's what you call an intranet. So that you could only send message. I don't know if it's still so. Let me put out a disclaimer. I know years ago, I got
It is still so, but at least you can pay for it now.
you could pay for internet.
Yeah, but it's poor. It's really poor.
Who am I speaking with?
Naya.
You have links in Cuba?
Yes, I do.
Nice. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. One of my lifelong goals is to visit Cuba, by the way, which I have not done yet. I should do soon. Right? So all these are ways of using the mass media. So as we can see, it could be beneficial, it could be not beneficial, right? La religión en la sociedad hoy día, or hoy en día. Hoy día is how we say nowadays. It can also be expressed as hoy en día, right? Both of them can be used interchangeably. So religion has always been present in the life of man, and it makes us feel as being part of a group that shares our beliefs, rites of passage, rights, and customs, right? Esta forma una gran parte de nuestra sociedad. It forms a great, or plays a big role. It forms a great part of our society. Ya que, since many se dejan dirigir por sí misma, right? It forms a great part of our society since most persons are left on their own, to their own will, that sort of stuff, right? Con ella podemos aprender sobre el bien y el mal. Through religion, we can learn about good and bad. La religión influye en nuestro comportamiento, manera de pensar y forma de ver las cosas. So religion influences our behavior, our way of thinking, our way of seeing things, right? Religion says Dios existe. Some more points on religion. La religión dice que Dios existe. It says God exists. Y eso es una buena noticia. That's a good news. Es por lo tanto fuente de sentido y esperanza. It is therefore a source of feeling and esperanza, hope, right? Relationship between persons is altruistic. Anybody knows, you heard the word altruistic before? Have an idea of what, when we say somebody is altruistic, what does that mean? I'll help you on any spot, by. Okay, nice. In the chat, altruistic means that you think of others before yourself, in other words, right? Nice. So the relationship between persons is altruistic, thinking of the other, right? Porque el otro es importante. No se debe a un contrato social. If you go into political science and you study of that, you'll meet this term, the social contract. Yeah. So what it's saying is that with religion, the relationship between persons is altruistic. You see the other person as important and you treat them in such a way, right? The treatment of persons amongst themselves is not because of some social contract where it is a fear that this person harms you, so you treat them good just for the sake of that. No, there's not an unwritten social contract that exists, but we see each other as important, as having dignidad, as having dignity, and religion teaches us, and through religion we learn to treat persons in that way, right? Finally, sentido de la vida ahora y fuente de esperanza para el futuro. So we get meaning, we get a sense of life, or meaning and a sense of life now or in the present, and a source of not inspiration, a source of hope for the future. So you get a sense of how it is you should live now. That's what religion gives you. Así yo debo comportarme. This is how I should behave. Right? De esa manera. Esas son las cosas que yo debe ser porque yo tengo una relación con Dios. So these are the things that I should do. Y esas cosas yo no debo hacer. I must not do those other things because of my relationship with God and with man. So these are some of the points for religion, right? Of course, what's the most famous point against religion is that it could cause persons to become violent and war and terrorism and that sort of stuff as well. But I thought it noteworthy to give you these 3 points here. The role of education, I deliberately left this blank for us to flesh out some ideas for and against. So the role of education o la educación, en el pasado la enseñanza se basaba mucho en la teoría y poco en la práctica. So in the past, teaching was based mostly on theory with little attention to the practical aspect of it. I imagine some of you all feel this way now still. And it made me feel that this is not so much the past, but it's the present, correct? Right or wrong? Am I wrong? Prove me wrong. Right? Se trataba de captar datos, pero sin necesariamente comprenderlos o interiorizarlos. So education in the past had to do with capturing, taking, receiving certain information without necessarily understanding, internalizing education, making it part of your life, it affecting the way you think. It didn't necessarily have to do with that before, right? But nowadays, education is more participatory, es más participativa y la enseñanza es más avanzada y práctica. Teaching is more advanced and practical, right? More real world applications, in other words, right? And a teacher and the child are both actors on the same level. You all agree? Mm, mm, mm. Let me get some impression, guys. Teachers and students are actors. Both teachers and students form part of the learning experience. What do you all think?
True.
I agree. Was it Naya, I believe? I learned something about Cuba from Naya, something very, very much up to date and contemporary. Yeah? That is the beauty of teaching. You get two opportunities to learn. Right? So, what are some advantages of education in this time of COVID? En español, las respuestas. Se puede comunicar conmigo en español, en inglés primero, pero después vamos a redactar las respuestas para ponerlo en inglés, en español, lo siento. So, you can give me the answers in English first, but we're writing them down here to put them in Spanish as well. So come on, guys. This is the part where you all speak.
No necesita poner un uniforme para la escuela.
No necesita, ¿qué? ¿Poner qué?
Un uniforme.
Uniforme. Oh, I thought you said un informe, like a survey. Okay. No, so like a nice expression, hace falta de uniforme. You all ever met that phrase before? Hace falta de, to need something. This is an excellent, right? So hace falta de means to need, as in a synonym for necesitar. Thank you kindly. Who else? Who else? We'll make the words a little bit smaller so we can get as many contributions up as possible. Another advantage, anybody? Don't need to rush, just take your time and hurry. As my mother always say to me, take your time and hurry up. Anybody else?
Fácil acceso a los sitios web. Por ejemplo, YouTube,
A los
word reference.
acceso fácil a los recursos. I didn't hear what you said. I just making up this. Easy access to what?
Los sitios web, por ejemplo, YouTube, word reference, Spanish Tech.
Excellent. Anybody else? See how much space I leave for you all? That means plenty things can be said. What's another?
A causa del virus, ahora nosotros tenemos un mejor conocimiento de usar la tecnología.
Excelente. So, la tecnología y el... Anybody knows how to say literacy? Okay, somebody wrote a message in the chat. I'm going to include it as well, right? Más tiempo para completar. Las asignaturas. What is literacy? El alfabetismo. You all ever heard that word? Sí, no, nunca.
Sí.
Sí.
Okay. Let me just double check. I doubt myself. Just like you all are students, I still consider myself a student. So I doubt myself many times. And you know what I do when I doubt myself? I look it up. Alfabetización digital. Okay, so let's use the phrase that I gave there. What am I doing here? Alfabetización digital. It seems like if it can be used synonymously, but as I say, to play it safe, let us use the word that they have. Any other points for? You notice we building an essay here too?
Es más barato para acceso los libres textos por la red.
No. Más barato. Hay que hacer menos gastos. No hay que pagar transporte, libros físicos, etc. Somebody just wrote something in the chat. I feel it may have to be condensed a bit. Más acceso a educación por los pobres porque el gobierno provee la tecnología que necesita para hacer el trabajo y que resultó en los estudiantes. Que resulta. No necesitan papel. Okay, let's condense this. Más acceso a educación por los pobres. And then you could put gobierno. How do we say devices? Dispositivos.
Dispositivo.
Yeah. Right? It's not just about knowing the words, but expressing it as well, right? So the more access to education by poor persons, the government provides devices for learning. What about desventajas? O también se puede decir
Por la
inconveniente.
falta de concentración.
Ok. Es más, es difícil concentrarse en casa. Miembros familiares menores, bebés presentes, etc. Right? What else is another disadvantage of online school?
Los problemas con la tecnología.
Excelente. Los problemas con la tech. What about the problems with technology?
La falta de internet
Okay.
y
Problemas con el audio.
Problemas. Okay, so let me ask a question, right? If we are in school and there's a problem with, let's say we are in the computer lab in school doing some work, right? And there's a problem with the connection or something. What do you all usually do in physical school setting? We usually have like lab techs and stuff, not so? You all have that in your school?
yeah, or we just use something else.
Okay, I see, I see. So watch, los problemas con la tecnología no se solucionan los problemas. So this is substitute passive here, right? Los problemas con la tecnología no se solucionan or no son solucionados. Would have been in normal. They are not solved fácilmente. Hace falta de técnicos. Técnicos is technicians, right? And the reason why I chose this topic is because this is just my, yeah, so I think CXX will think, right? I would think that they will pick topics that kind of on the hot burner, that kind of thing. So everybody experiencing this, so I could be wrong, huh? But everybody experiencing this, so let's get them a topic on this to do for the essay, that kind of thing. What else? What other advantages do we have, guys? Okay, no desventajas, lo cierto. Naya?
Mantenerse motivada o motivado.
Dígame otra vez, por favor, la oración completa.
Es difícil mantenerse motivada o motivado.
Excelente. ¿Por qué? Why?
Porque están sus electrónicos y hay media social que
Let me ask a question. This could almost be like a research topic. What is it about online school that people are fed up about? I can talk for myself about. I'd like to hear your take. What is it about online school exactly that makes you lose interest?
Distractions.
you're not
Serious?
face to face. Like I don't feel intimidated than
You
if
don't,
we were face to face.
you don't feel intimidated, you say?
Yes, when you're face to face and you said, "Oh, you have an assignment due at XYZ time," you know you have to see their face, so you're more propelled to want to do it than if you're not having to see their face. It's not as intimidating.
So let's say, I given all of this point, I love that. La falta de urgencia en hacer, we want to link it, right? It is difficult to be motivated a causa de la falta de urgencia en completar tarea. No hay repercusiones de no cumplir las reglas como en las clases presenciales. Las clases presenciales is how we would say like in-person classes, right? But think about it. I know why it has been frustrating for me as a teacher. If usually a student doesn't give or do homework at home and stuff, right? And they come to school, what will the teacher usually do? I think certain things may stay true for most classes. What will the teacher usually do? You haven't completed a homework assignment, you're not doing your SBA or your IA or whatever, and the teacher catch up with you, what would they usually do? What is the first thing they threaten to do?
Give you a 0.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but more than that, more than give you a 0. That might motivate some people.
Some kind of punishment.
Some punishment, they might give you detention to stay back at lunchtime, detention to stay after school. They might threaten to call your parents. What they calling your parents when mommy right next to you when Miss giving you the buff? And she don't hear nothing because of the headphones. I have experienced that as well. You understand how the parents there in some cases, the parents know in some cases as well, unfortunately, you know. So these are there are no real repercussions. If somebody did something very grave in school, they get suspended, they get sent home for some days, so you're sending somebody home, not home already. If you're given a detention, what are you going to do? The both of you are going to sit down in front of the computer screen and look at each other in silence. So there are no real repercussions for actions. What do? Deny somebody from entering a class and deny them their education? You understand? So in the online setting, there are very little real repercussions for bad behavior, mal comportamiento. Let me summarize this. Let me put a little thing like that. No hay verdaderas, let's say no hay repercusiones adecuadas para el mal comportamiento. And that's the same point that we are now making. What is adequada? And I'm doing certain things deliberately. I want you all to understand that, right? This is a false friend, adequada. We might see adequada and it looks like what word in English?
Adequate.
It doesn't mean adequate. What does adequada mean? Appropriate or correct, like in line. So there aren't any appropriate repercussions for bad behavior. as we say, how as I said to you before, I have gone through this as well, right? You could use appropriate as well instead of adequate, right? Anybody want to give one last point? A negative effect of online schooling. In COVID times, my gosh.
Mala salud mental.
Well, that could go into this, into being motivated. The most glaring one, what is the most salient feature of online school in comparison with in-person school?
I don't
So,
know.
well, I don't know how to say it in Spanish, but I'm thinking more like face-to-face interactions, so it's harder to learn.
Excellent. La interacción humana real. I think through this whole year plus of COVID, that is one of, listen, tell me if I'm wrong about this, right? Before COVID, everybody complained about youths being on their devices too much. They're being on devices too much. Too much screen time is not good. Persons need to go outside and play. Children nowadays don't do that. Somebody said it in the chat, I've lost social skills. We used to complain before of it, and I think children would have been like, yo, I want my game. I want to play my PS, my PlayStation, my FIFA, my 2K, whatever the case, Call of Duty, all these games, right? You want to be able to recluse yourself from that. But in this time, in this COVID time, I think what we have learned more than anything else is listen, no matter humans need humans. Humans need human interaction. You all agree with me on that? How many people here miss their friends? Down to the person I used to smell sweat in the corridor. Maybe not that person, but yeah. Right? But that human interaction is huge. It's a huge deal. And I think that's one of the things that I don't know if you all agree. This is my perspective. This is my perspective, but la falta de, what it is I said just now? Interacción
Humana.
humana es perdida o se pierde. Passive, normal passive, substitute passive. Right? The lack of human interaction is missing. What does this lack of human interaction do? Personas que extrañan o estudiantes, not personas, a sus amigos, right? Falta de ocio, a lack of leisure, falta de deportes y actividades extracurriculares, right? All of these are things that we could speak of. So how many persons excited to go back out to school, or y'all prefer? Y'all is like, nah, I want to stay just so.
So it's a mix because like I learn better in school, but I don't want to wake up early to go to school.
Oh, how I agree with you, and I know the feeling.
I mean, the only reason I would not want to go back to school is because it's so hot. Like, at least when it's colder, it's like cool. At school, it's hot.
You have air conditioning at your home?
Yes.
Miss, you just left a message in the chat. I don't know if I could put you on the spot like that. But can you explain that term that you use for us?
The hidden curriculum talks to the unwritten rules and norms and values that us as humans learn when you're in school and that you must follow and abide by, like saying, standing up when the teacher enters the room, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. And that has been brought down by the Plantation Society that we have integrated. Yes.
You see? I tell all that. That's why that's why I love teaching Form 6. You learn so much from your students. Continue, sorry. Continue.
That we have integrated into our daily lives. And that's one reason why the Plantation Society will always stick with us, because it's beneficial, but it's also bad because it gives a level of respect and structure in the school. But
mejor dicho, I was thinking escondido, but hidden is like literally hiding from somebody. But yeah, this would be the better phrase. El currículo, or el curriculum, el currículo oculto. Sorry. I cut you off, sorry.
But it can be, that's why, the reason why it's bad is because we're holding on to that Plantation Society, but it's good because it brings respect and structure with the school, because, you know, it also prepares you for the workforce, because when you're in the workforce, you kind of say, yeah, whatever your boss's first name is, that we, you know, there's a level of formality that the hidden curriculum gives you.
Nice, excellent. So watch, el currículo oculto, todos los valores y normas que aprendemos en la escuela presencial se pierden. So all those norms, those values, many of those things that we would usually learn, they are lost. Y se reemplaza. Am I saying the correct thing you were saying? Naya?
Pardon me?
Am I saying the correct thing that you were saying?
I never heard of reemplazar.
No, not reemplazar means to replace. But the point I'm making is that all those values and norms that we would usually learn in school or by being in physical school, they're usually lost. Think of it as comportment. How many persons that have to iron or that have to wear the school uniform or some school uniform for online school? How many of you all actually ironed it during the course of this academic year?
I don't wear my uniform.
I had
I just wear home
first term we had a dress code, which was that you just had to wear like an actual t-shirt, like you couldn't have noodle strap or whatever, but that was just for like one of my classes. The other classes we didn't have to have our camera on.
And as you said, Naya, definitely that comes from
the plantation. Good morning.
Absolutely.
Because normally everyone comes in at the same time, so the teacher just says a general good morning, and you don't necessarily have to respond. But it's better to respond, but the likelihood of a child responding is not likely.
So what do? Do we throw away the baby with the bathwater? Or do we take the good from that system and keep it as well, right? Some of the etiquette and stuff that would have been learned. And do we watch and learn what we would have experienced during the course of this last year of COVID and some of the benefits and try and adopt that into I don't even want to say the new normal, the new life after COVID. Understand? So some things to think about. I love this discussion. Can I use this discussion for social media purposes?
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I love the discussion, right? So guys, excellent. We basically estamos al fin. Tenemos preguntas, comentarios, dudas. How do we feel now going into the exam? You feel as if, okay, I think I understand better. I know the points. And listen, you all are in an exclusive place to be able to, I don't know how many of you all actually looked at those specific topics before I studied based on that. Yeah. So the fact that you were in the class, you actually in a position, you could go and look over this. We will be posting it on YouTube later by tonight latest, right? And you could fast forward because you know certain parts go back, that kind of thing, yeah? Any questions, comments, any doubts, anything anybody want to say?
No, sir.
Pardon?
I was saying I don't have any questions.
You're welcome, Denada. Okay, I see somebody just said in chat.
Excuse me, sir. I have a question.
Yes, of course.
For the essay, will we be